The sleek black SUV pulled up to the private school gates, its tinted windows hiding one of the most powerful women in the city. Margaret Lane, a billionaire CEO, media tycoon, and a woman whose time was worth more than most people's yearly salary, was there for one reason: to meet the French tutor her 12-year-old daughter, Claire, had chosen. She expected a polished, Paris-born academic. She didn't expect him. A tall man in a faded jacket, with close-cropped hair and a military posture, stepped forward. He held a weathered notebook in one hand, and in the other broken bar a battered lunchbox with cartoon stickers peeling off. "Mrs. Lane?" he asked, voice warm but hesitant. "I'm Daniel Carter, Clara's new French tutor." Setting the stage, Margaret's first instinct was doubt. She'd built her empire by reading people, and this man didn't look like any private language instructor she'd hired before. His jacket was too worn, his shoes too scuffed. Yet a broken bar, there was something steady in his gaze, something that made her pause. Clara came running up, beaming. "Mom, this is him. He's amazing. He speaks French like in the movies, and he brought croissants today." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Croissants?" Daniel shrugged with a half-smile. "Homemade. My daughter loves them, too." Only then did Margaret notice a little girl about 7 years old, waiting by the school fence, clutching a stuffed rabbit. She looked shy, almost fragile, and the way Daniel glanced at her, a protective, gentle said everything. Backstreet unfolds. Over the next few weeks, Daniel's lessons became the highlight of Claire's schedule. He didn't just teach French, he told stories about French history, about helping locals rebuild in small villages he'd been stationed near during his service, about how languages connect people who would otherwise be strangers. One rainy afternoon, while waiting for Claire's lesson to end, Margaret found herself talking to him. That's when she learned the truth. Daniel was a decorated Army veteran who'd served overseas for over a decade. He'd left the service to care for his daughter, Emily, after his wife's sudden passing. His pension barely covered the basics, and tutoring was the only work flexible enough to let him pick up Emily from school every day. "But why French?" Margaret asked. His smile was bittersweet. "I promised my wife I'd teach Emily the language we fell in love in. Figured I could make a living teaching others while keeping that promise." The twist. A week later, Clara came home in tears. "Dad, Daniel can't teach me anymore. The school says his rate is too low for the program. They're replacing him." Margaret's chest tightened. The program's policy was simple: only instructors from their exclusive list, with credentials approved by their elite board. Daniel's military certifications didn't count. That night, she found herself pacing. This was a man who had served his country, raised his child alone, and still gave more of himself than most people ever did. And they were about to take away his livelihood because of a technicality. Margaret Lane didn't get to the top by watching good people get crushed by bad rules. Emotional climax. The next day, she walked into the school board meeting in full CEO mode. Her heels clicked like a gavel as she spoke. "You're telling me," she said, voice cool as steel, "that a man who taught villagers in war-torn regions, who speaks fluent French, who has transformed my daughter's interest in the language, is less qualified than someone with a framed certificate?" Silence. She leaned forward. "Then your list needs to change." The policy was overturned within the week. Daniel was reinstated with a pay raise, courtesy of a private sponsorship from Margaret herself. Uplifting ending. Months later, Clara was reading entire French novels, and Emily, shy little Emily, was chatting fluently with her. Daniel's tutoring business grew, mostly through word of mouth from parents who trusted him instantly. One evening, after a small school recital where Claire and Emily sang a French duet that made half the audience tear up, Daniel pulled Margaret aside. "I don't know how to thank you," he said quietly. "You already have," Margaret replied. "You reminded me what real investment looks like, not money." People. As they watched their daughters laughing together under the string lights, Margaret realized something unexpected. This wasn't just about saving a tutor. It was about building a family, in the most unlikely way. And for the first time in years, the billionaire CEO felt rich in a way no bank could measure. The air outside was cool, carrying the faint smell of freshly cut grass from the schoolyard. Daniel zipped up Emily's little jacket, making sure her scarf was tucked in, and Margaret noticed how naturally his hands moved. They not rushed, not distracted, just steady. Claire was still chattering in French, excitedly telling Emily about a play they should put on for the class. Emily, normally so shy, actually giggled. Margaret couldn't help smiling at the sound. On the walk to the parking lot, Daniel carried Emily's backpack and balanced Claire's stack of French books in his other arm. "You know," he said, glancing at Margaret, "Claire's pronunciation is coming along better than most college students I've met." Margaret smirked. "She has good motivation. I think she looks forward to your lessons more than she looks forward to dessert." He laughed, a warm, low sound that seemed rare for him, like it only came out when he felt safe. "That's the nicest compliment I've had in a long time." They reached the cars. Margaret's chauffeur opened the back door for Claire, but Claire lingered, almost reluctant to leave. "Mom," she whispered, "can Emily come over this weekend? We could practice for the duet."